Good evening. Tonight we're going to be playing lots of Black Mage to start the week of Black Mage content. We have tomorrow a new version of my Black Mage starter guide for the level 1 to 50s and everyone that needs to know or wants to know how to play Black Mage at level 1 to 50. You know, might be important. A lot of people know that Black Mage plays extremely differently from how it plays at max level when you're at low level, given the lack of Fire 4. And then Thursday, we of course have tea time, but that's not Black Mage specific necessarily. But then we have the high level guide, which includes a little bit of transpose lines. Not the deep dive. Incidentally, it takes a lot of time just to explain how to play Black Mage. Now, if you add all of the transpose line stuff, you might have an hour-long guide. But we have like a soft introduction to the subject. I think that's pretty good. Then Friday, we talk about speed, so skill speed and spell speed, and as many people know, speed is something that is very important to Black Mage. Even the slowest Black Mage builds still go with like a GCD of 2.42, preferably. Which means that Black Mages run with like a faster GCD than most jobs, as a minimum. I think there are some like hyper-specific, super slow mages that try to go with 2.5, but I'm not sure how well that works. And then Saturday, we're leveling Black Mage on Small Kai, so we have most of the week dedicated to just Black Mage. Just Black Mage. Hey Licky, hey Levin, hey Phoenix, hey Kitsuneko, hey Twan, hey Kitviction, and hey Tristan. I hope you're all doing very well. Licky sent a clip and really insisted that I check it, like, to start this. It is some Black Mage related stuff, so I feel like we can do that for anyone that does not want spoilers for the third boss in the Shadowbringers normal raid series. Just like look away for like a little bit. I'll let you know when you can look again. This music that I just muted will probably start again. Yeah. So the clip is about knowing where your tank is and only moving when needed. So we can see a tank there, a mentor that is an ultimate legend that is standing right there in the middle. They're being targeted by a tank buster that happens to be a line AoE. So they're actually supposed to go over here or over here right now, so that it doesn't like cleave through the party, this line AoE. Now, our recorder is down here. I would say you should, like, I don't know if you've locked your camera, that is why it's so far out, but I feel like you need to like tip the camera a little bit down so you can better see your feet. But that's up to you. That is probably as short of a step you could possibly take, ever. It also killed the one of the healers and hit both tanks. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. It's pretty funny. It's particularly funny because it's like the oh, by the way, you can look again now. The spoiler stuff for anyone that is afraid is gone. It's funny because it's almost always like when they make that excessive mistakes, I think there is a good explanation for it. The explanation is like, when I say good explanation, I don't mean it as in it's a good excuse, but there is a good explanation for why a player that is supposed to know what they're doing appears to not know what they're doing. So the first thing to observe is that combat mentors, like the crown with the sword are extremely rare to see in the wild, because it's way easier to get the crafter mentor crown, and if you have both, you can get this big crown with nothing in front of it. So most combat mentors are also crafting mentors simply because they just unlock both, and then they just use the big crown. Now the reason why it's important that it's a combat mentor is because if you queue mentor roulette specifically, you will always be forced to use the combat mentor crown, so the one with the sword in front. There's a possibility that this tank was going through mentor roulette. And they're an ultimate legend, which means they've done multiple, as far as I remember, multiple ultimates successfully. Now, the good explanation for why they would make such an obvious mistake is, one, they might not actually remember the fight. Or they've only done Uwu. Well, there you go. Still, that is an ultimate, they should know better. But maybe they did that ultimate back in Stormblood, and then suddenly they became bad at the game. I don't know. And they might not remember the fight. That is one option. They might not care about the fight. That is another option. And that is actually something that I have heard from Legend players, you know, those that have those ultimates done, is that they suddenly view normal content as not just easy, but actually trivial. Like, I don't need to use defensive cooldowns. Why would I need to do that? It's not a savage. And then promptly die to something ridiculous like a wall-to-wall pull. Because they weren't even trying. Because for some reason in their mind, they've ranked the difficulty of not savage content so low that they're, like, underestimating it somehow. And you just saw that laser beam just killed the healer and nearly smacked the other tank as well, because that tank wasn't expecting to get hit. It's pretty funny how that turns out. There's also the possibility with hardcore Savage Raiders that also do ultimates that they simply don't care enough about, like, giving it 1,000,000% outside of Savage and ultimates. So instead they give it, like, 1% effort. So it becomes really bad. But I don't know about that. In this particular case, I'm guessing it's a combination of didn't remember the encounter and they happen to be in a mentor roulette, so maybe they didn't expect that. Yesterday, what was it that I got? I did normal raid roulette and got Midgard's armor in Omega. And when I did trial, what was it that I got when I did trial? Oh yeah, I got the Cloud deck on trial roulette. Somehow I didn't die and I was playing Black Mage. I was also playing Black Mage on Midgard's armor, where I also magically didn't die, given how long it's been since I did that. Hey Ryan, how are you doing? Exactly, Lemon. The argument for I don't feel like trying because it isn't hard content kinda clashes with the whole part that there's 3 or 7 or 23 other players that might actually be trying their best, that you're letting down by slacking intentionally. This is something that I talked about in my video, that it's okay to suck in Final Fantasy XIV. There's a difference between not being good at the game, having a disability that means you can't be great at the game, and just being lazy. Right? Like, there's a huge difference. So if you're actually bad at the game, that is that's a big difference from like just not caring. Like if you're running around parading an ultimate legend or any legend title, then yeah, like you're usually expected to do a little better. But Licky says they acted surprised in chat, so I think they just forgot the tank buster was a line cleave. I'm guessing that they didn't make that mistake for the rest of the run. Licky says I don't give 100% in normal content, but I make sure to get to at least be better than average. Yeah, there's like, for example, you don't need to do like the perfect opener and all the like burst shenanigans. Like if you're a samurai main, there's probably no need to do the whole looping rotation perfectly, because if you're in a random group, there's a relatively low chance that everyone's going to line up their raid buffs anyway, so maybe being a little slower even might benefit you. Things like that. Hey Gelano, I hope you're doing well. I feel like, haven't you been away for a few days? Yeah, that is exactly it. If they did only that mistake on the first tank buster and then like solved it for the rest of the fight, then it pretty much means that they just didn't know. And that's like, again, that's not the same as like being bad, lazy, legend, burger crown, it's a lot different if they're like terrible the whole way through. Right, so we're starting with expert roulette. Is there anyone that wants to come along with me, or am I queuing alone today? Eviction says, I've been watching a ton of your videos lately, your voice is different. Yeah, my voice is a little different on live because it's a lot harder to put on the very specific voice, and a lot of like the voice that I use for videos is like prepared. I'm sitting there doing nothing else. I'm reading off a script, so I can just focus on making sure that it sounds as good as possible. Sometimes I have to retake things because I say it wrong, even though I said the entire sentence. So I hope it isn't too big of a problem that I sound different on stream. But I'm glad to hear you've seen a ton of my videos. I really appreciate it. I hope you find them interesting. I don't know, I know, Kidviction. I know you weren't trying to be rude. I'm also just trying to explain because it makes sense. Originally, when I started streaming, I was specifically scared that when I started streaming, people would find it really jarring that I sound different on stream. Lemon says, do you think Expert Roulette will let me join if I'm a level 6 Thaumaturge? Probably not. Hey Tracy, how are you doing? Okay, Ryan, I'll wait for you. Licky says, since most people hate their own voice, how do you as a content creator deal with listening to your own videos? Well, when I'm recording the voice lines, I start by going with, does it sound right? Does it sound fine? I can almost always hear it if I need to retake something, because the voice gets too much. Sometimes I don't catch it, but often I can. When I'm editing it, I usually have my editor at like 50% volume. Not because I can't deal with listening to it, but more so because if I can hear it at 50% volume no problem, then surely everyone can on YouTube, right? Everyone that watched my videos that are like a year old and complain that they can barely hear me, right? But if you let's say you ask me a question that I know is in one of my videos. If I know that it is in the video and I know where, like if I know that it is in the video, I'll just look up the video and send it to you. If I need to like tell you where it is in the video, there's a good chance that I'll look up the manuscript, figure out approximately where it is in the video based on that, go to the video, jump to that point, just listen to that bit, and then send just timestamp. Like, I will kind of avoid watching my videos from start to finish or through sometimes. But sometimes I listen to my own videos. It's not that bad. When I was just starting making videos, I actually disliked hearing my own voice a lot more. I think the fact that I don't mind it nearly as much now is a sign that I've gotten better at it. I'm not great at my streams though. I have never put on one of my streams in the background. I also feel like that might be a little bit too narcissistic, if you know what I mean. Miliki says, I doubt I could edit my own videos for that reason. You would get over it, I think. Lemon says, I want to do level 90 content with all 3 of my buttons. You know, it would be weird if you could, like, scale up, like, compared to, like, how you can be scaled down. Because if they ever made it so that you could, like, scale down but keep your actions, that would also open the door for, well, why can't you scale up and keep your actions as is? Like, you just get a damage buff or something to compensate. Like, maybe. And thank you, Licky. I'm glad to hear that. The thing is, like, videos from, like, a year ago, like, from a year ago, I didn't have, like, I have added, like, 6 dB extra volume to my voice in the editor, to, like, help get a little extra boost. A year ago, I didn't do that. And also, I spoke with a softer voice in my videos, which, like, compounded to make it really hard to hear for some people. I think it has something to do, like, some speakers really emphasize music, so they will, like, bring up the music in the background and bring down my voice, which makes it harder to hear. Some speakers or or headphones or whatever might just not pick up the specific frequency that I'm speaking on very well, so I sound quieter compared to everything else. And then there's also some people that are just annoyed that they have to actually go over to YouTube and actually, like, drag the volume up as, like, compared to just having it at the same volume for all of their things. Like, they listen to some music, have it at a certain percentage, watch a video, have it at a certain percentage, and so on. And I feel like you can't do that with anything. Like, if that's your goal, you will never be satisfied. Is it just the 3 of us? Do we not have a player 4? Just remove the jobstone. Yeah, I've heard people say that that the annoying part, like, it usually comes up in discussions about Crystal Tower, actually. People are annoyed about getting Crystal Tower all the time, mainly because it means they get to play their job only at level 50, which is eventually not super fun, right? Like, when you've done it enough, get a little bit tired of it, so they want, like, these players say they wouldn't mind Crystal Tower nearly as much if they could bring the level 90 toolkit, but that would of course be completely unbalanced. But then, like, you could just adjust the damage output. You can do that, then you can give a damage buff to lower level jobs and they could do a high level dungeon, no problem. Maybe. Like, imagine a level 8 warrior queuing in and getting, like, Aurum Vale. Yeah, so you have a Rampart. That's your only defensive cooldown. Good luck. Right, it looks like it's just the 3 of us. And Matthew's AFK on the candy. Licky says level 8 can't do roulette though. That's true, but if you could scale up, there would be no reason that they couldn't do roulettes. Like that would remove that issue. But you're right, they can't. Which is probably good. Like, actually a level 8 warrior wouldn't have an AoE. Raven, hey Raven, says, always been interested in Black Mage, even considering it for next Savage tier. It's just so hard, but the challenge is fun. Well, I feel like the best way you would be able to like practice for a new Savage tier would be, like for anything really with a job, is to practice it in a lot of content. Because if you do that, then you will be like, you will have more varied experience with the job. So you're like ready for whatever comes. Like, you're not experienced with doing specifically this raid, you're experienced with playing the job. And then we switch to single target right at the end. Nice. Yeah, Black Mage is extremely satisfying when it works. It has extremely high points and then like extremely low points. Because it does not feel good if you mess up. Look who's brought ethers. Oh, they're moving really far away there. Guess who's brought ethers? I've brought ethers. It's me, the Black Mage with ethers. It's like, it's something so small, but it helps so much in like a dungeon context. That like if you can bring ethers, because then you can get the triple flare on every trash pack pretty much. Exactly, never too many. So any bets on where the Tide Breath is going to land? Do you think it's going to be on me? Or rather, do you think it's going to face me? Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I didn't want my ley lines. It's always on me. It's like a magnet. It's the mechanic magnet. Uh-oh. Oh, thank you. I was here planning how I was going to make it over to you. Which instant am I using today? Uh... Now that's the Black Mage privilege right there, is if people know how Black Mages think, they usually know that the Black Mage is like looking at the stack marker like, come to me. Like, I would love to stack with you, but I'd rather not move. Black Mage should have rescue. Now that would be an interesting twist. I don't know what they would actually do with it, but I feel like it might get very degenerate. Like, just pull everything. Like, they're not pulling stuff to them to, like, help them. They're pulling stuff to them to help themselves and no one else. Hey, Kwasari! Oh. Well. Oh no! We don't get the triple flare! Guess we'll do fire and double flare instead. The ether was just barely not ready. Licky says, I've been 80 plus Black Mage for many weeks, but today was my first time using Umbral Soul. Is that because it's the first time you've been in content where you were actually 80 plus? Or was it because it was the first time you actually had a dungeon where you were 80 plus? I didn't know what it did. Did you not read the tooltip? It's very handy. Are you serious? Are you serious? And then we have transpose line. Woohoo! Miracle asks, are you using an MMO mouse? Yes, I am. Ah, yes, pixel perfect. I'm using the front 3 buttons to reach the the far right buttons, and I'm using the 4, 5, 6 to reach the 7, 8, 9 buttons. Thank you. All right. Now. I've done this dungeon a few times the past few days. I happen to know that that line is 14 seconds. So you need to time it perfectly, otherwise it doesn't work. It's going to drop. Like he says, you're not playing absolutely flawlessly all the time. No. I've been told that some people appreciate that. That makes them feel less bad when they're making mistakes, because even really good players make mistakes. Not that I would suggest necessarily that I am a really good player. And I think I'm a decent player at the very least. Yeah, like, I've actually, it's recent that I've really gotten, like, interested in playing a lot of Black Mage. So I might be making a lot of mistakes that I shouldn't be making. Like, if I had a lot more, like, practical practice with the job. But I at least show up prepared, and I'm trying my best to do really well. And ether. Use an ether! But I've only got 96 of them. This is the final battle! But you can't buy those. Kasadi says, I still mess up on Dragoon a bit. And Kasadi is our local Dragoon main, right? At the same time, I don't strive for absolutely most optimized gameplay rather than for consistency. You see, that's also a point to consider. Like, if you're not making any, like, major mess-ups, then you're probably good. I could have used Paradox there. How long do you think I get to stay on my ley lines? Any bets? Oh, I have to Xeno first. Just taking a sneaky look if my ley lines were still there. For some reason I looked where they were instead of on the buff. Oh, excellent. I'm really going to take my sweet time with this. Ow. This boss can be really hard, I feel like, to actually find, like, opportunities to really push the damage. Because I might need my triple cast if the boss decides to breath on the other side of the entire arena. So I might need it. I probably will need it. Case in point. Are you serious? That is the longest possible run. Oh, right. That's the Salid's bit right there. And Xenoglossy. Mistra says, I'm knocked out quitting sugar and caffeine cold turkey when having been addicted to it for years. Oh, that sounds like a very, very, very boring day. I could imagine you're very, very tired from that. I hope it goes well. Sometimes it can be really hard to quit something. Usually it's very hard to quit something. So good luck. There it is. Apparently I just spirit bonded with all my gear all at once. Which suggests that I got the Black Mage weapon, then all of the armor that I'm wearing, and then only played Black Mage amongst the mages. I'm pretty sure that's the only way that would happen. Licky says it's very hard to quit sugar since it's added to so many foods. Yeah, that's true. I suppose there might be a difference between like quitting sugar and quitting like adding extra sugar to stuff. I don't know. But that would at least help, I think. Right. I think that went really well. Sometimes I had to walk a little bit, but I feel like I didn't spend very much time just kind of sitting there, which sometimes can happen with Black Mage when you're having a lot of mechanics. That is the scariest part about playing Black Mage, is like, if you didn't plan for a mechanic, then you kind of just have to like drop everything and just kind of awkwardly shuffle over to the save spot while not doing anything, because you're not going to cast Scathe, of course. I'm not crazy. Hey Noah, I hope you're doing well. Yeah, that's true, mister. Kasadi says, on another note, I have a bit of a change in raiding schedule since one of our tanks now have a strange work schedule. Since we are doing well with the tank, we're doing our reclays a bit later in the week. Well, if you want to join me for some roulettes, you can see that we have a free spot. Although, depends on how flexible the group is on rolls, I suppose. Ryan says, with that much damage, I didn't even need a second round of cooldowns usually. Well, that's good. Alright. We'll see how much we're, like how far we are when you want to join up, Kasadi. Who knows, maybe we're more. I understand that, like, it makes sense that we wouldn't be so many in-game. I know a lot of people are like out on summer holidays as well at this time. I think, at least. I know some that are. So, yeah. I'm not, it's not that bad. Right. Level 90 roulette is next. That was actually when I've gotten Lapis Manalis, my fastest. So in the last boss, there's this intermission with like these 4 ads called Flotsam or something like that, that you have to kill before the boss has like their resource capped out. In that mechanic, in the first bit, 3 of the players take a spread marker, and then in the middle bit, usually, one of the players gets a stack marker. And then you kill the flotsams, and then there's the raid-wide attack or party-wide attack. When I did it with Black Mage, I actually had a run where we killed the flotsam before the stack marker resolved, which I haven't actually had happen before. I don't know if some people in the chat are going to be like, yeah, that happens for me every week. because maybe they're like full savage gear or something, but I haven't had that happen before, so I thought that was pretty neat. The final boss in Lapis Manalis, Cognazzo, or what's his name? He has the intermission with the 4 flotsams. Usually the mechanic goes spread markers, then the stack marker, and then you clear the flotsams. I had a run where we basically killed the flotsams as the stack marker itself was about to resolve. Well, that is impressive, Licky. Mistress says, I'd love to join, but on my current character, I'm basically at right before the Crystal Braves quest line. Right, yeah, that might be a little difficult. Maybe on some of the later roulettes. You can hop on, Nikki, if you want to come along. I'm always in there as a 659 summoner. Nothing to apologize for, Gilano. And you don't have to worry about halting me. We're not exactly rushing on these streams. We're just slowly making our way through. And we get through as we get through. Usually we manage to get all the roulettes we want done before, well, let's see, before 9 server time. And that's good enough. Exactly, Lemon says chill hangout stream. Oh, Licky, it works very well if you're tanking. Yeah, if you're capped on tomestones and you realize while we're in the middle of queuing, just say it, we'll stop the queue. Like, we can wait a few minutes for you to buy something. Like, I've had those situations where I realize that I'm capped on some sort of tomestone while I'm in an alliance raid or something. That's sad. Ah, yes, Fell Court of Troya. Mistress says, I'm on Atomos. That's not EU, I'm pretty sure, is it? Shucks. I messed everything up there. Let's rewind real quick. Try that again. I accidentally pressed Scathe when I meant to use Swift Cast. And then I started casting Freeze when really I should use Umbral Soul just to ensure my Umbral Ice situation. And then my attack got interrupted because I stood in the telegraph. Like, everything that could go wrong went wrong. Noir says, what do you do with Poetics when you don't need armor? Usually I buy books in Yulmore, like Scholar and Summoner books, and then I desynth them to level my desynth level. There's no reason to do that. It's not very cost efficient. I just do that because I want to max that out, and it's a cheap way to do it because I don't have anything else that I need to use those resources for. Don't know if I would recommend others do it, but that's what I do. But yeah, you can also, like, if you buy, like, shields for Poetics, you can trade those in with the expert deliveries to turn it into company seals. And you can also turn them into Thanalan Topsoil, which certain, like, a lot of players use for their Thamnarian onion farms. Which means money for you. But now that I've said that, all the servers that the stream chat right now occupy might get a significant influx of Thanalan Topsoil. So it might not be as effective. But you can try it. The worst that can happen is that you make a little bit less money. It's still more than sitting on like 2,000, right? Yeah, you can, sometimes you can really big brain it and find something that is really valuable. But the important part is spending it on something. I'm just going to bunker down and hope that this isn't the bad spot. It's not. Excellent. Mistress says, I really wish they would raise the cap even to just 3,000. I feel like this is a case of it's not exactly the same, but I've mentioned that, like, with a lot of cooldowns in Final Fantasy XIV, there's a lot of cooldowns that would be really nice if you could just have 2 charges on it instead of 1, so that you didn't have to, like, click it immediately when it's off cooldown. But we all know that if a button gets that, then you will just, like, stockpile them for raid buffs. So it means instead of you being able to better like line them up for when you want to use them, it becomes, well, now you're using 2 of them for raid buffs. Similarly, if you could stockpile 3,000 Poetics, you would probably sit on way more Poetics. So if ever there is added items in the game that are worth spending Poetics on, everyone will have 3,000 of them to spend instead of 2,000. So it would just have, like, the effect of, in a little bit, you will be saying, oh, I wish we had, like, just 4,000 cap, or 5,000 cap, and so on. Like, it would be a never-ending, so, like, it would never be resolved. It would be nice, though. It would be nice. I think, like, this is something we also talked about a little bit earlier on the Discord server, is sometimes the reason why something weird is the way that it is in Final Fantasy XIV is because some developer went, I think it would be nice if it was like that, and then they kind of just went with it. Like, there's no reason why it had to be 2,000. It could have been 10,000. There's also no reason why the things that you buy with Poetics cost what they do. But I get the frustration. It is a bit annoying that you can almost reach cap in a single day of just doing roulettes. Are you kidding me? Right. For some reason, I thought it was a different action. The way later action, it's been a while since I did Fell Court of Troya. So I completely forgot that the cone AoE is way later. See, that's what I thought it was for some reason. When I stepped away just before. I wonder if we can kill it before it becomes relevant. Yes, we can! Oh, there's a mechanic coming up. Just kill the boss. The easiest solution, just kill the boss. I mean, that's also a big one, Phoenix. I feel like the scripts are weirdly, like, low how much you can have. Like, in comparison to what you can, like, how quickly you can fill it up. Yeah, exactly, just win, Lamau. Oh no! I don't have anything. I don't have triple. Oh no. When you start the triple flare and then you realize that you only have 2 flares. Now we have three flares. That's a very weird crystal tower. Yeah, I know. I call it the world of darkness. Naraxis says, what's your favorite job? It actually kind of depends on the day. Uh-oh. Oops. I didn't realize I had 2 seconds left on that one. Oh, now you get a very, very boring opener. Yeah, right now I'm actually enjoying Black Mage very much. Ironically. Or maybe not ironically. Well, I didn't get hit by the AoE. I was explicitly looking at the mob's HP bar to see I don't need to move. But I get your point. Oh, that doesn't count? Okay. Noted. I had forgotten that doesn't count. Yeah. Why are you all the way over there? Why did you do that? Can I do this Bev? No? Okay. That's okay. I'll just cast a flare on this guy. Yeah, it is a classic Black Mage thing with standing in the AoE. And then it just kind of doesn't amount to anything. Like the Ultra Greed that then causes you to die. The Ultra Greed that you also often didn't need to do. But you just had to, because damage. Oh no, oh no. I mean, you could be defeated by me. You could be. Yeah. Nice. Did someone get an achievement? Oh, thank you, warrior. Well, that is a lot of dungeons, and it gives a title. Oh, Tristan is here. It's one of those achievements that kind of just happen in the background. Oh, I can also buy a new relic. Or I can upgrade one, rather. Yeah, genuinely in Neuraxis, I've just like the... I think I'm just going to buy the materials and then I'll figure out what I'm upgrading later. But recently I've been playing a lot of Black Mage. Like, I made some guides which required me to play a bunch of Black Mage. But then I just kind of kept playing. I think Tristan might also want to come along. If there's anyone that doesn't specifically really want to come along, I imagine Tristan is here to join. I believe he's not far enough to do the level 90 stuff. It can do the rest, right? If there's a spot, just finished a meeting. Well, there is a spot. We have at least 2 players that said that they were willing to like flex out. So you can be tank, Tristan, if you want to be a tank. Our group is very flexible. Yeah, I'll just hold on to those. Like, smash cut to me in like 2 days when I'm streaming again and I still have them in my inventory because I forgot I bought them or something like that. That would be very like me. Just put something to do later during stream, and then when the stream ends, I'm just sitting here like, I feel like I forgot something important. What could it be? What could it be? Well, if I don't remember, it probably wasn't important. Like, next time I buy relics, I'm like, I buy 3 of those rocks, and it doesn't appear when I'm expecting it to be. I'm like, where did it land? And like, oh, I have 9 of them or something. That would be very typical me. It is quite funny. I think Licky was highlighting this, that ethereal manipulation is really, really janky with walls. Like, look at this. I can drag myself towards someone through a wall, and it'll like place me at the angle of the player. Like, if there was ever like a raid encounter with like a pillar in the middle, you could use that. That's true, Licky. All dashes are like that, but most dashes aren't as readily available to dash into walls by accident. It's also just more the specific way that ethereal manipulation works, because it actually tries to drag you towards the player. So it like pushes me into the wall. I can see like this. It pushes me into the wall and then drags me across the wall because it was trying to pull me to Tristan. Oh, by the way, here's a really weird fun fact about upgrading your relic weapons. To upgrade them, you usually need to have the relic in your inventory, but you also need to be the job in question. So to upgrade your relic weapons, you typically need to have a secondary weapon just on hand. Like it says, if your target is moving, you'll also do a curve instead of a straight line. That is true. Black Mage's dash is very interesting. It's also very funny with like Dragoon's backflip, that on anything but a Lalafell, you will be body blocked by fences that it looks like you're backflipping over. Like, clearly you're backflipping over them. Yeah, exactly, Tristan. It's because you always need a weapon equipped, but the game can't swap them out at the same time. That is precisely the reason. But it is a little funny that story-wise, they're literally saying that they're upgrading the weapon, so logically they could just like change it into the new weapon, so you're just still holding it. But I'm guessing that they're scared that it might bug out or something might crash, so they're just not doing that. And yeah, you can't even skip the cutscene upgrading to 645 because the stat choices on the weapon happens in the cutscene. It's very interesting. I've seen it 6 times. 6 times. No worries, Orion. I'm just doing a new ready check to be sure. I'm just putting that on so that we remember it for the leveling roulette. What do we get? Swallow's compass. Wow. Swallow's compass, that was one of the optional dungeons in Stormblood. You needed to do it for the Four Lords trial series, but beyond that it was technically optional. Alright, we killed the mobs. That was pretty good. I think that was surprisingly effective somehow. We just killed everything before we even reached the pack. Uh-oh. Well, I'm committed to the double flare now. I'm going to finish it. Yep. Oh man, I remember doing this dungeon so many times. Back when tanks had separate tank and DPS stances, I remember like playing this as Paladin and fiddling with are there times where I can get away with using the DPS stance without it being a problem? Sometimes, but usually not, because random groups, you never know for sure what you're dealing with. Oh, thank you. It is very beautiful. Now this boss is also very awkward for Black Mage because of those. Can't remember how much I'll have to move to dodge them, so I'll just hold on to some swift casts and such. Yeah. Whoa. Tip camera. Oh, glare mechanic, of course. My favorite. Oops, oops. And foul. Bam. It feels like a lot more when it has a cast time, doesn't it? Hide behind the walls to not get knocked back. I'll be over here. I guess I forgot to put up my Umbral Hearts. Oh well. It's a little harder when you can't set them up between pulls with Umbral Soul. On AoE specifically. Destroy him! Hey Duntubo, how are you doing? Oh, we have foul. Let's use that first. Parlia open beta. What's that? What? I don't actually know anything about that game. What's that? But that sounds sounds like a nice Tuesday. Nice Tuesday. Yoop. Hey Magitrack, hope you're doing well. Mix of Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing. Oh. So it's like ultra farming game. Cozy MMO. Ah. Actually now it starts to ring a bell. I feel like I saw a a trailer on that. Wait, this is a chase AoE, isn't it? Oh no. 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 Magitrack says, it was my first job 2 years ago and now I'm coming back to it and trying to get rid of all my bad habits. Well, the weirdest thing with Black Mage is that it has so many weird tricks in the job that many bad habits or mistakes can be resolved with, like, big brain strats. Like, at max level, there's this trick where you use... oh, he's already dead. Where you use Transpose after Despair, and then Paradox. But the only time you'd want to do that is if you accidentally use Triple Cast when you were, like, one spell too late. So that you're going to be instant casting... Blizzard 3. Like, that is the only situation where you would really want to do that I could identify. And it's so specific. But it's like, it's there in case you mess up. It's quite funny. There's a lot of tricks that you can use to fix your situation if you mess up. Or if you have a bad habit and you then fall down the hole of doing it again. But I hope you have fun with picking it back up again. What's with all these circle AoEs? I don't want them. Focuses completely on crafting, fishing, and gardening. You know, that might be really fun. Last time, or the last times, plural, that I've gotten into RuneScape, both old school and RuneScape 3, I've often focused strictly on, like, non-combat skills, because if I wanted to fight, I would play a game with, like, a heavier focus on combat specifically, I feel. So I could imagine a fully, like, gardening MMO basically, or non-combat MMO would be popular with some players. By the way, there's a little trick with this pack you may have noticed. If you kill one of the birds right at the start, the rest of the pack spawns. That's the trick. You can put the trailer in the Discord, Dontable. Thank you very much. You can do that. Nope, the short end. That's the tank buster. Both ends. I think that's a donut AoE. I'm still pretty sure that that was the donut AoE and I just didn't get in time. For the lightning one, I mean. It's Monkey! It's Monkey! Back when I did this dungeon on my paladin back in Stormblood, the way I pulled these mobs was I used healer aggro. I would cast Clemency on myself because that would generate healer aggro on all of the mobs, causing them to run to me specifically. You don't really need to do that anymore. Enmity is not an issue. It's a non-factor basically, so why bother? But it's funny that that used to be a thing you could do. That mattered, notably. Splitting hairs. Oh yes, and you both just delete my... Uh-oh, uh-oh. You both deleted my thunder spell. That's fine. I didn't want it anyway. Just removed it. He's going to split hairs again if you kill one of them. It's better to just, like, evenly split them. At least in my experience. Because he's just going to do it again until you kill him. Nice. It's been a long time, or I don't get this dungeon very often. The both ends attack is a Blue Mage spell, by the way. It's let me find it. You may not have seen very many players use it, but it's decent in the right context. So the problem with both ends is that it's on a shared cooldown with Nightbloom. That might sound familiar because when we were discussing Apocalypsis, which is awesomely cool, the problem with Apocalypsis is being mortal exists and shares cooldown with it. Like that's the problem with the spell. The spell itself, the ability itself, is not bad, but the problem is that you have to choose between it and something else. That's the same thing with both ends. Both ends is really good. It does more upfront AoE than Nightbloom, but Nightbloom does like multiple times both ends damage to all of the targets. It's incredible. And Gilano says you can also have Malediction of Water from the Water Yokai. That's true. That's also from Swallow's Compass. But it's specifically both ends, I remember, because I went and got that. As far as I remember, I even went there solo to do it. And then I got it, and then later I went with a group to get Nightbloom, and then I saw that they shared cooldown. I was like, I don't see any situation where I would use both ends over Nightbloom. Like, none. The only situation where you would actually value both ends over Nightbloom is if you can somehow argue that using Bristle and Song of Torment on like every 30 seconds is good when you could do something else, because Nightbloom saves you half of those casts. It's like Shadowbringer's Tri-Disaster. Alright, Licky, thank you for joining for some of them. Tristan says, always fun to get a surprise dungeon you don't have fully stuck in your head. The guessing game was won again with the AoEs of the last boss. Yeah, I love to get like dungeons that I don't normally get. That's why it's a little bit boring to do expert roulette after a while. Because you just get the same 2 dungeons. They're not very exciting after a while. Meanwhile, level 90 dungeons, I'm just saying, there's over twice the, like, selection. The problem is that most of the time I get failed Call of Troya for some reason. But you get the idea. I hope you enjoyed seeing a DSR tank in a dungeon. A DSR tank in a dungeon. Well, that was nice. I think you did well. The thing that I've said, like, actually several times now is that I've had, you know, ultimate tanks or ultimate players not know things like sprint lasts twice as long when used not in combat. Like, things that you would know if you do dungeons a lot. So I think this is something that I talked a little bit about, or have talked a little bit about previously, but when you're doing a specific type of content a lot, you get really good at that type of content, which means, for example, that a Black Mage that does savage raiding really like a huge amount will probably be extremely good at planning their opener in a coordinated group with predictable mechanics where they know what everyone's going to be doing. But they might fare significantly worse in normal content. Like, it's not important that they really bring it in normal content, but simply because their experience is in a super controlled environment, it gets a little harder. For jobs that are a little bit less dependent on knowing everything that's going to happen, it becomes less of an issue. And I'm not saying that you can't be good at both or all things at once. I'm just saying that if you're doing one specific type of content, you become really good at that specific type of content with that job or role or what have you. So, like, that's also why, like, I'm mostly annoyed if, like, I see a legend title on someone and they're making, like, extremely basic mistakes. It's like, you should know better. Like, they're not moving away with a spread marker, they're running away with a stack marker, like, really obvious stuff. Then it gets a little like, you know what a spread marker is. But still, the thing is, and this is also something that might be important to consider sometimes, that that combat mentor in your group, or that ultimate legend or triple legend or what have you in your group, might not be playing their main. They might not be playing a job they're comfortable with or know a lot about. And if they don't, then it doesn't even matter that they have the triple legend or whatever it is. Because they don't have the experience with that job. And, like, the legend title doesn't tell that. Like, it might be helpful if it, instead of saying ultimate legend or triple legend, gave you titles like legendary Black Mage or something like that, so that you had, like, a specific tag on it, like, yeah, I did it with a Black Mage. Like, I think that might actually be helpful. And if we had that, we might start to notice, like, these legends running around. They're like, when they're playing really poorly, they're playing a role and a job that they didn't get their legend title with, for example. The sparkles in sync with legendary Black Mage. Gambler says, very cute bun. Well, there you go, Ryan. It is a very cute bun. Yeah, Licky says, I run away with stack markers sometimes, so then I know I can take it alone. I think it was my first run of P12N, where we had so many deaths to mechanics that my co-tank, which was a warrior, like a stack marker appeared on him. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be appearing on a healer. So you could see in what kind of distress we were in. And he just like ran away with it. Like he actually like intentionally ran away from people with it and then turned on home gang. Like, nope, we can't tank this. We're like 4 players alive. Oh. See, registration cancelled. Roulette leveling unavailable when less than 2 duties qualify for your selected requirements just yet. I'm guessing it's because, Orion, you don't have 2 dungeon. You don't have a level 59 and a 61 dungeon, right? Orion says, I have Great Gubal and even Great Gubal Heart. Well, the thing is that when we're doing limited leveling roulette, what it does is it goes here and goes, okay, what level are you? You have 67. Okay, so this. Like those 5 dungeons are the only ones. I'm not even sure if Great Gubal would be on the list. But you need... Oh, you do have Siren Song. In that case, I'm guessing it's just these 4. And then it's like you don't have Shisui of the Violet Tides and Bartram's Medal are also not there. Well, that's fine. We'll just do normal leveling roulette. Just doing a new ready check. Ryan says, I promised Copa I would provide a certain level of fun to the streams while she's away. Excellent. Yeah, it's a bit funny that it makes that restriction, but I kind of understand it, and then I kind of don't. Like, couldn't they just say, okay, then you just get the 2 highest level dungeons that you do have access to, or something like that, like to choose between. But I'm guessing they're making it really strict so that no one like tries to game it, and we have Sunken Temple of Khan. Well, at least I have my I can use Fire 3 and Blizzard 3. That temple bat is really off to the side. Yeah, you can skip the temple bats there in the first room. It's a really random detail. Most of the time, you'll see people just pull them anyway, because they don't even know. And it doesn't save that much time, so I can see why most people wouldn't know. I think it came about simply because they don't give any XP nowadays, so why bother? Ah! Oh boy. As Orion says, weird to only have Mangetsu. Oh yeah. You know, it's going to be even weirder because now you're going to a single target fight, and I'm pretty sure you have only Higanbana. I can't remember if you also have access to Tengagoken, but if you have, then it's going to be really awkward because you'd rather not get it. Unless you can, like, connect it with these Vesps. Another proc! Wham! Another proc! Wham! Another proc! Wham! Oh, only one Sen available. Well, that's not so bad, but that does mean that you have, like, you only want to actually do your Shifu combo for the speed. It might feel a little awkward. How strange. Yeah, those kinds of strategies where people discovered that, oh, you can actually skip this mob, or you can just ignore these or run past them and things like that. I think that that stuff really came about. Like, it already existed before the change where most of the, like, all of the experience of dungeons were moved to bosses. But I don't think it was nearly as prominent as it is now. Because now you both, like, can save time, but you have no reason. Like, these you can just run past. Like, you don't even need to fight them. You just run past them. They'll reset. Oh look, it's the Khan phaser from before. Boink. And it's dead. But it's those kinds of, like, small things that if you do dungeons enough, you start to notice them. Because some random person had discovered it and they just do it when you're in a group. That's how I noticed most of those tricks. Like, one day I landed in Sunken Temple of Khan, and someone did that. So I just went, oh, you can do that? And I've just done that since. At least when I'm tanking. Wow! We did a lot there. Like, I'm pretty sure that's pretty normal that it's just below half or so. That was really good. I don't want the leveling dungeon loot. It's so little company seals. I'll scathe them. Oh, we keep pulling. All right. All of the things. That is a really, really big pull. That went well. The head. The head. And it's gone. Nice. Hmm. Nice. Then we have the rest, I guess. Those condemned ones are really annoying sometimes to pull. Guess? Or are they melee? If they're melee, it's fine. It's just usually those spirit blobs are like mainly ranged, like maybe they'll come in for something. And sometimes they'll just kind of stand there depending on the dungeon. Oh, we don't have anything to put on the scales, so wow. We're good archaeologists. Very smart. Very big brain. I put up 3 thunders and I didn't get a single thundercloud. Slab of stone to clump them. Oh. And then there's the ad. Oh. And it's dead. Uh-oh. Thank you. And it's dead. Well, this is certainly a lot easier when everyone's focusing the ads when they spawn. Saint Achieve says, what do you recommend spending causality tomes on if you no longer need causality gear? Well, generally I wouldn't recommend spending your causality on gear in the first place. I can show you what you can spend your causality on in a moment, when you're out of the dungeon. I'll explain that. Exactly, Don Turbo has the right idea. You should not buy the gear for causality itself, because... Oh right, we forgot limit break. Oops. Because you can buy crafting materials that are used to craft better gear, sell it on the market board, and then use that money to buy the crafted gear, which is better than the causality gear. So just to put an example, you can buy this helmet, like item level 640, for money. Like just go to the market board, here, and you can just buy it. Generally, I recommend using an app to check which world in your region has the cheapest items. I use the Universalis app. So universalis.app. To check. Just to take it from the fully. These are the 6 materials that we're buying to sell. You can see these ones are worth 8,000 each. These ones are worth 7,000. Well, on my server, right? These are worth 7,000. I'm pretty sure they were worth like a fifth of that before the new relic weapons did. These are worth 6, 7, and 5. So you go and check which ones is worth the most. Then you teleport to Ratsatan. Gambler says, does Universalis have a mobile app? I don't know. They have a website and it's called universalis.app. Kitsuneko says, is it a lesson about 80,000 glasses? No. This is something everyone can do. So, this vendor, you know, the one where you buy your causality gear, you click on the other category, then you see here are the items. You can identify the newest materials, the ones that you want to buy. They're going to be most... sometimes the cheaper ones are going to be worth more, hypothetically, because they're like on a higher price tag on the market board, but given that they're basically only used to make items for glamour, they're not going to sell nearly as often as these 6. You can tell it's the new ones because they cost 20 instead of 10. So just buy like a bunch of them. You can buy like a bulk of just the one that is the most expensive right now. It might drop before you manage to sell. Or you can buy like a variety and like diversify, as they say. Then you put those on the market board, they will sell, and then you use that money to buy the crafted gear. Now, another important detail about this, we can't do it now, it's not available yet, but in 6.5, which is coming like early October, like early mid-October or so, this NPC, Rashti, will sell a 3rd type of rain. It will probably cost 100, just like the Dharmic rain does right now. And then you'll be able to give her your crafted gear. She will give you the these Hanish certificate of grade 3 import when that comes out. And if you hand her like a high quality helmet, she will give you enough certificates to buy a high quality helmet that is augmented. We should then go to augmented. I'm just using Arena Sita as an example. That was the previous raid tier. They just have an extra 10 item levels. But since the rain costs 100 tomestones each, you're going to need like 300 tomestones of causality to upgrade this helmet, or to upgrade a helmet 10 item levels. But that is something you can spend causality on in the next patch. There's that, and then if you have gone into unlocking Endwalker relic weapons, which is also a good idea, especially if you're a more casual player. Even if you're a hardcore player, that might still be helpful. But if you have the relic weapons unlocked and you're working on them, you need 1,500 causality per step of the relic weapons, which means to upgrade a relic weapon to 645 right now, you need, like, if you don't even have a relic weapon, you're going to need 4,500 causality to do that. But it's a really good weapon. It's not the best if you have one of the what's it? Credendum weapons, I'm guessing they're called. Well, they don't even have that. They're just named specific weapons. If you have any of those, they will be like marginally better than the relic weapons, but they will also be significantly more expensive since they require limited resources, as opposed to endlessly farmable resources. But yeah, for gearing, my suggestion is go to this NPC Kihanti and buy this. Actually, let me just It's a little bit outdated because it was on the previous raid tier where we used astronomy instead of causality, but if you want like the directions or you forget something that I said in this stream, this video I just linked explains all of the things you can spend your farmable tomestones on. It just happens to be from the previous raid tier, so it's using astronomy as the farmable tomestone instead of causality. But all of the advice should fit as long as you remember that you need to look at the most expensive thing here, and you need to look at, like, you need to remember that the specific type of rain that you need to buy, it doesn't exist yet. That's my advice. I hope it helps you, Saint Chief. Right, where were we? I'm glad I could help you, Saint Chief. Right, we did that. So next one is trials. Is there anyone that wants to join up for that, or is it just the 4 of us? Saint Chief says no one has a video on this. It might be a nice one to make. I already made it. It's just that it's 1 raid tier old. Everything I say in it is the same. It's just that I would have to like just make the entire video and just replace everything with every word that says, every time I say astronomy tomestone, I just would have to say causality tomestone. So the video is exactly telling you what you can spend your causality on. It's just that it's saying astronomy instead. That's okay, Saint Chief, but now you have the video link. The NP is different? The what? The NPC is different though. Nope, it is not. The astronomy tomestones were spent at Chianti, and you bought the augmented gear from Rashti with astronomy instead. It's just when astronomy cycled out, they just replaced all of the prizes with causality instead. It's the exact same NPCs all the way from start to finish. There's no difference. But yeah, you're right. It might be easier to follow if I made one for causality instead, in retrospect. I'm thinking it might make more sense to make it in 6.5, where all of the options that you can possibly ever spend causality on will have been added. I think I might do that. But thank you. Right, I think it's just us 4. I believe when I did the astronomy one, it was actually also in a time period where it was like, the Alliance raid is coming out. So I can't show you now, but next week it's going to look like this. Take my word for it. It's pretty funny. A Hildebrand trial. Huh. I can hardly remember what we're supposed to do in this one. I remember that you get turned into an imp, and then you need to, like, attack specifically Typhon while you're an imp. But that's pretty much it. I also remember that you might have a chance of not falling off if the knockback happens. If you're, like, hugging Typhon. But, not sure on that one. Oh, well, that ninja was ready for a fight. Looks like we're killing Typhon first. But it doesn't seem to work because they share health a little bit. Yup. Take this! And this! And this! And don't forget this! Hold these! Wham! Yes! I have a card buff! Take this! My imp punches are powerful! Aha! You don't stand a chance, Typhon! Uh-oh. Well, I can report that Surecast works. How about some more imp punches? Yeah! A snort salt. Oh, I think that's knockbacks from both sides. Oh, whoops. I didn't think it would be that wide. I'm coming back in. Ow. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh, that works. Just hug Typhon and you'll be fine. It's the same shenanigans I use in World of Darkness on the knockback things. But yeah, I believe these, like, they give Aqua Breath, Snort, and 4 tons weight or something like that. They give a huge amount of actions for Blue Mage. Which makes perfect sense. Like, Hildebrand is the perfect place to find the insanity that is Blue Mage spells, isn't it? I'm impressed we didn't wipe though. Normally people wipe to the big snort at the start. At some point. Like at least once. Right, normal grade is next. It would be a very impactful spell. It's an echo says, am I wrong, or is the 4th Ymir? No, that is Orion. For some reason, the character is named Ymir. But that is Dot Orion. Or did you mean it's the 4th Ymir that you've seen? A bunch of Alexander stuff. Oh, one of your party members does not meet the requirement for this duty. Oh, wait a minute. You need to be level 60. There we go. 12 minutes. We're a balanced party. Well, surely that'll drop a little bit as we go. Oh yeah, in other news, I got the series level 25 in PvP, so I have the mount. It's this, apparently. It's missing an arm. It's the PvP bound for this series. So if any of you suddenly are very excited to have it, you have around 2 months to acquire it still. Just around 2 months. It's a very weird bunny. You think Coco would approve? I don't know, it's a robo bunny. And it's missing an arm. Phoenix says, does this one have unique music? I don't think so. I feel like this isn't unique. What was the last seasons? That was a dragon, right? Oh. It was that one. It sounds like that has the same music. So it's just a generic PvP series mount music. I always forget that mounts can have unique music because I don't use it. I just don't use it because I like to have the music of the zone. Like, I turned off the mount music stuff at some point in Shadowbringers when I was like power leveling jobs. Like when doing the daily hunt marks, you like fly a little bit on your mount and then the next fight begins. Like, you have extremely little time between each fight. So it just gets a little jarring if like that it keeps switching between zone music, combat music, and mount music. So I just removed the mount music. I could have removed the combat music as well, I suppose. Oh. Those went around a lot. But I don't have a lot of mana. I hope it dies in 2 hits. Please? Almost. It's very chaotic to come back to with all the mobs all around the room. It's also very funny that it drags you away only to pull you back like 15 seconds later. It really smells like, you know, it used to take longer and be more threatening. But it's fine. I wonder how... Oh boy, here comes the judge thing. Hopefully our healers don't touch too many people. Uh-oh. One more person has it. Uh-oh. Oh, 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 oh. So for those that are curious, the mechanic with the circles on the healers at the end of that fight tends to be something that either nothing happens or both healers die just suddenly with no explanation whatsoever. The way that the... yeah, that Angel is already a... What if we touched Nisi's under the bus? What the mechanic does is one of the healers gets the blue hammer and one of the healers gets the red hammer. if you get too close to one of the healers, they will give you the same debuff. Like, they'll just pass it to you like a virus. If you get both debuffs, you die. Which means that if the healers touch Nisis under the boss, they die. And the reason why they sometimes just suddenly die is because they were standing next to each other when the mechanic started. And it comes with very little warning, so that's fun. Right, Alliance Raid is next. Does anyone want to join up for Alliance Raid before we start? You know, Phoenix, at first I actually thought you were referring to how the other bunny mount can play music. Do you wish to visit Crystal Tower? We can visit Crystal Tower, I don't mind. That is like the part of the cause with these streams. I'd rather we were more people than we like go with less people specifically so that we have a chance of getting something else. Because the thing is, even if you weren't coming, it's only a chance that we got something else. So I don't really care. Orion says, where's this one from? This mount is awarded for maxing tribe quests with the Loporits tribe. It's the crafting tribe in Endwalker. It's very easy, and it's very easy XP if you already have the have a craft at level 81 or more. You just do them every day. You get a huge amount of crafting XP for doing them. I think, at least, all of my crafters were already maxed by the time those came out. That also applies for the Omicrons, which are the Gatherer ones. They give a lot of XP for the Gatherers. Well, Orion, you're really missing out, because they both give a mount, they also give an emote. They give this emote. The ear wiggle, and no, Vieira, the Vieira ones, the Vieira still will produce ears to wiggle because they can't wiggle their own ears. Magitrek says, I love the PvP one that holds you up. Do you mean this one? Or did you mean a different one? Or did you mean a different one? That's some cool ones. The Omicron mount is actually also really cool. It's this one. It's Tiny Space Kai that can use Thunder Shock. This party is in need of blade. Well, does that mean you're coming, Angel? Are you going to be our blade, Angel? Whee! Just got launched. Did someone say blade? Yes. Well, if you're not coming, then I guess our group is complete. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is like fate, Lemon, that you're like coming back and forth, like sometimes you're listening in on the stream, and the specific moment where you're checking in, there's a blade meme. Like it's fate. Your destiny is intrinsically entwined with the blade. New Kai mode leaked. Kai Blade. Well, it feels like we don't need to make a new emote because Whoopsie Kai is like the Blade emote, So there would be nothing that would be able to compare. You know, like I could make a specific dedicated Blade emote. But the Whoopsie Kai has just become the emote that is associated with it, so there's no point trying to make a new one. It is funny. Oh. Someone's smiling at me. It's a big read. And you get a thunder, and you get a thunder, and oh, you have a ram's voice. Let me get away from that. Yep, we're in the void one. That's sort of how it goes. That's why we call it Crystal Tower Roulette and not Alliance Roulette. Setting yourself, like setting your expectations to get anything other than Crystal Tower is bound to lead to disappointment. I have become Lightning Mage. Angel says, I became what I am in Baldur's Gate. Are you a Lightning Mage? Or a Lightning Wizard, perhaps? A Sorcerer? A Storm Sorcerer? That sounds powerful. Bomb. Oh, Thundercloud! And a Fire Starter! Oh, and a different target. Guess what? You're getting Thunder. And you're getting Thunder. And, well, you're not getting Thunder. You're kind of low HP, so I'm just going to kill you normally. However, you're getting Thunder. And also, you're getting a new Thunder, and I don't want to look at you. Thunder! And Thunder! Oh look, mobs to put Thunder on! I think I have gotten the behind one? Nope, I had not. Oops. I specifically moved and got the wrong one because I wasn't looking. I wasn't paying enough attention. How many thunders can one Black Mage cast? Well, depends on how much time you give me. Speaking of which, I need to reapply Thunder. Thunder! Uh-oh. Tank's dead. What happened to the... I don't know. I think that they ignored something. Like that's my best suggestion, that they weren't paying attention. I think we might be able to ignore this. Oh, someone took a third hit. It really goes south really quickly when both of the healers die in a group. Especially because there's no one else that can raise or heal or anything in that group. Not that there's many jobs that can at level 50. Like, not even a red mage would have helped them. Only like a summoner would have been convenient to have when you have a lot of deaths. It's thunder time! But, wait, did we use Limit Break? Did we use Limit Break on something? Wouldn't we normally have Limit Break, like, by now? Huh, weird. Both healers dead, that sounds like Puppet's Bunker. Yeah, it does. Lemon says, I was going to say a summoner would be good for healing. Yeah, it wouldn't be good for healing. The only thing it would supply would be a raise. Which is exactly what you would want if all of your healers are dead. So, I mean, it wouldn't be that bad. It's thunder time. I like procs. And I cannot lie. Is that a Morbius meme? I didn't even realize, but I guess you're right. It's time to it's Morbin time. Is that how it goes? It's time to morb. I'm going to morb. I'm morbin. Home. Well, that is a very prominent target over there. The prominence. I'll One, you haven't reached Heavensward yet. Well, there's something to look forward to. A funny thing, actually, is that all 3 of the Heavensward jobs are extremely high APM. Am I the only one that noticed that? Like, Astrologian is the highest, like OGCD spamming job of the healers. Machinist is one of the highest, like, OGCD and GCD spamming jobs of the DPS, just in general. And Dark Knight, I mean, it has some stiff competition from Gunbreaker, but they're pretty close. Way! Did you see our group do the wave? Angel says Gunbreaker and Dark Knight are on the same level. Yeah, I feel like Dark Knight has the capacity to fit, like, just slightly more OGSDs in, but then their amount gets inflated, the Gunbreaker ones get inflated a little bit by the strictness of the timing. Let's see. Gunbreaker has 3 continuations, like at most in the 2-minute burst. They have 3 continuations, and they have Bloodfest, and then they have 3 burst strikes for 3 additional continuations. And then they also have No Mercy itself. So that's already 8. Then they have Blasting Zone and Bow Shock. So that's 10. Oh. And then they have 2 Rough Divide, so that's 12. Dark Knight, at its absolute peak performance, has 5 Edge of Shadows. Like, at absolute push to the limit. And then it has Carbon Spit, Salted Earth, and Salt and Darkness, so that's 8 in total. And then it has Living Shadow, so that's 9. And then it has Delirium and Blood Weapon, so that's 11. Uh-oh. And then it has 2 Plunges, so that's 13. Am I forgetting anything? But the key thing is that to get 5 Edge of Shadows, you need to have like 9,000 MP as you go into it, and also have Dark Arts from TBN, and then you use Blood Weapon and get another one during the burst. So it's pretty likely that you just have 4, but that means 12. So yeah, you're right, Angel. I get it to the same. Does that sound right to you? Did I forget anything? Yeah. I'll probably get a more accurate count if I sat down with the job. But aren't you impressed of how many OGCDs I could count without even having any help in front of me? Aren't I incredibly good? How many went in? Did only one person go in? Well. No, wait for me! Oh. Oh. Well, give me the tail slap then. Come on. You know you want to. Okay, fine. Truly a Wikipedia. 1 OGCD. Oh, look, many enemies. You get a thunder. And you get a thunder. Oh, actually, there's not that many enemies. Well, that's fine, Swan. Everyone has to have their first time. And we regularly see people greeting on the chains, which lead to wipes. Like if people greet too hard on the chains and you mess it up, you immediately, like, instantly wipe. It's just not worth it. Oh right, I had forgotten the Shadowbringers. So that means that the Dark Knight would be at 14. Without the 5th Edge of Shadow. With the 5th Edge of Shadow, it would be 15. Yeah, exactly, as you said, 14 or 15. That's also why I had this gag in my tank comparison video, where it was like, it's quite difficult to fit all this and just like dump all of the Dark Knight tooltips on the screen inside a raid buff window, because 15 things takes 8 GCDs to weave, and usually at best the raid buffs last like 6 or 7 GCDs. Lemon, it gets even sillier. They added the Shadowbringer ability after Shadowbringers, and they added Oblation, which, get this, makes the Dark Knight pose like in the Shadowbringers trailer. Like, you do the exact same pose with the sword over your shoulder. It's pretty funny that they added it after. A God's moment. Oblation is instant 100 coolness. Yeah, like that is the reason why Dark Knights didn't get an upgraded defensive mitigation the same way everyone else did, was because, well, if they made the TBN even flashier, you wouldn't even be able to see you pose cool. Hey Carlos, welcome. I hope you're doing well. Nyraxis says, can you explain why Paladin isn't that popular in Savage content? Everyone just on Dark Knights and Gunbreakers, according to FF logs. Well, if you check the statistics, you'll find that Dark Knight is actually the least popular tank, from what I could find. Like, there's the least entries from Dark Knights. The reason is that Dark Knight is really, really good at making 2-minute burst windows strong. So in a coordinated group that is specifically trying to pass, like they're trying to maximize damage, Dark Knight is really strong. But in all other groups, Dark Knight is like not special, and Paladin and Warrior are actually easier, as far as I know. So there's no reason to like go out of your way to play the harder tank when you can just play the easier tank and produce nearly the same results. I'm pretty sure that's the reason, because if you check the logs, as far as I remember, Dark Knight has like a significantly lower entry count in the statistics, which means that there are less Dark Knights. It's just that the high-passing groups, like those that are literally posting the top 10s, you know, those that people typically look at, they will usually be, like, maximizing their damage to the limit. And that is something Dark Knight is pretty good at. Whereas it's slightly less impressive outside of this sort of optimization. Yeah, lower skill floor. Paladin and Warrior has like a significantly lower skill floor and a significantly lower skill ceiling. Like they're just, everything's just moved down. That doesn't mean that they're bad or that there's anything at all wrong with choosing the jobs. Nothing. It's just that they might be a little bit easier to master. That's pretty much it. So, if you want to get into Savage raiding, play what you like. If you get into like a Savage raid group that has a like that really try to pass really high or something, then you might run into situations where they're like, maybe one of our tanks could go Dark Knight because we want to speed run or something. But it doesn't really matter, because if you're not a Dark Knight main, then you're probably going to be performing worse simply because it's not your main. So the groups that would want to do that would not be looking for a warrior or a paladin. Well, let's we're done with all of the roulettes that we planned to do, so let's take a moment to once again feature FF logs. Let's take a look at that. So, whoops. Sure, whatever. So, this is the DPS statistics for Anabasius. The RDPS is ultimately how much your job is going to contribute to the group. How that is calculated is that if the Dragoon uses Dragon Sight on the Black Mage, the extra damage the Black Mage does because they had Dragon Sight is actually attributed to the Dragoon in the final count. So if the Dragoon puts their damage buff on someone really strong, the Dragoon gets like more credit. Dancer's RDPS must be wild then. Dancer's down here for some reason. The thing that is important is that the median damage output score of Dancer is like 84, and the median of the top up here of Dragoon is 90 and a half. It's less than 10% difference. So the difference between the best job and the worst job is less than 10%. And then you also remember that because of the party bonus, which is this, you must have a ranged physical job in your group. Like, as in, you have to, otherwise you're losing 1% damage just across the board. So you need to have a dancer, a bard, or a machinist in your group. So that means that the fact that machinist is here and dancer's here bears no significance to the fact that reaper's here and dragoon is here. Like, they're not even in the same ballpark. They're not even competing for the same seat in the raid. Similarly, you must have a mage in your group. So red mage being here, summoner being here, and black mage being here bears more importance than reaper being here and dragoon being here. And yeah, there's also stuff like ranged attacks, which is like the way that it is explained why jobs do more or less damage. The reason why black mage does this much damage is because while they're ranged, they're allegedly so immobile that it's actually downside rather than an upside, so they need to do more damage. They also give no raid support at all whatsoever. In fact, they almost have like a negative raid support, because as you may, if you saw the expert roulette we did earlier, Aradil, so that's Gilano, whenever she was targeted by stack markers, she would like run over to me because it was better if she dragged the stack marker to the mage, so the black mage, so the black mage didn't have to move rather than me coming to her. So like Black Mage actually requires the raid to like adjust to the Black Mage. So the Black Mage is actually like, its rangedness is almost a detrimental factor. That's why it does this much damage. Dritharian says, thank you for all your videos. They've helped me be better at the game. I'm glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you. Thank you so much. So that is the long and the short of it, of why the damage spread is like this. It appears that right now Dragoon is really good, relatively speaking. Now, the thing that Nyraxis was interested in was the passes, I believe. So you can see here how many passes each job has. So the key ones that are very interesting to see is that there's 45,000 summoners here. Just as an example, there's only 25,000 and 22,000 black mages, so that means there's nearly twice the amount of summoners to every other mage. Like, for every red mage, there is one black mage and 2 summoners. There's 40,000 dancers, 18,000 bards, and 29,000 machinists. It's a little closer, but we're actually close to 2 dancers per bard and machinist. And with melee DPS, it's a lot more complicated because there's 5 of them, right? But you get the idea. If we then switch this to just show us the tanks. Okay, it's actually even more interesting. So what Nyraxis said was, it looks like all of the groups use Dark Knights. So let's see, Cocytus, Dark Knight Gunbreaker, double Dark Knight on 3 of them. Dark Knight Gunbreaker, Dark Knight Gunbreaker, Dark Knight Gunbreaker, Dark Knight Gunbreaker, Warrior Gunbreaker, Dark Knight Gunbreaker. Like, there's a lot of Dark Knights here. There's also quite a lot of Dark Knights here, but it's a lot less here, so I suppose there's something with Cocytus. Themis, there's a few Dark Knights, and Athena, there's a bunch of Dark Knights. But if you actually check the passes of all the runs in Anabazaias that have been logged, 57,000 warriors and 40,000 paladins to also 40,000 gunbreakers and 37,000 dark knights. You can see there's a significant preference for warrior, and then paladin and gunbreaker have a slight preference over dark knight. But you can see warrior is like the big master here. Despite that, in all of the speedruns, there's some of them, it's half of the groups have a warrior, but there's not really anyone that uses double warrior, right? Meanwhile, we have 3 groups in Cocytus that uses double Dark Knight. So my argument that Dark Knight and Gunbreaker, they fare better in a more coordinated group, you know, a static, compared to Warrior and Paladin that are more, their rotations are simpler, they don't lose as much from not having the perfect rotation, and they're also better defensively, especially than Dark Knight, unless the damage is specifically magic. So, and a more defensive tank is usually better when your group is not as well coordinated. Like, if you actually can't trust your healers or something, then having more defensiveness yourself is pretty good. So, like, that's the thing. Naraxis says, so summon is the most popular job at the moment for this current Savage content. It's a little bit complicated. If I take all jobs, it seems the most popular job, like, of everyone is actually White Mage, because there's 62,000 passes from White Mage. But the reason why it's more complicated than that is because in every group you have 2 tanks, 2 healers, and 4 DPS. Now, in a raid group, there's typically, in a balanced raid team, there's 1 pure healer. So every group, except for a few outliers, let me just check. I don't think there's going to be any. Mainly the uncoordinated groups, but every coordinated group will pretty much have a pure healer and a barrier healer, which means that they will have a White Mage or an Astrologian. Now, you can see here that White Mage has 62,000 passes, while Astrologian has a measly 23,000. But when you see the coordinated groups passing, Astrologian is the popular one. Like, that is the more prominently chosen of the two. Again, because it's better in a coordinated group. The same happens with Scholar. It's better than Sage, and the reason why Astrologian and Scholar become better in a coordinated group is because the majority of their damage comes from raid DPS. They buff everyone else's damage, while White Mage and Sage are, hilariously selfish DPS. And like, White Mage and Sage provide nothing offensively for their raid, so as a damage dealer, they're equally selfish to a Black Mage. They provide nothing. So they're better in an uncoordinated group, which is why White Mage is really popular. The split between Scholar and Sage is a lot more even, simply because Sage and Scholar have very similar toolkits. It's not that big of a deal. But my point is that, just to make this example, you would have a pure healer and a barrier healer, so you can see that there's about 85,000, 86,000, maybe 87,000 passes, give or take, that have been posted, and half of them have Sages, and slightly less have Scholars. Like, slightly less than half of them have Scholars. 3/4 of them have White Mages, and about 1/4 of them have Astrologians. But then, with tanks, it becomes more complicated, because you can technically have any combination of 2 tanks. And you can even have 2 of the same tank, and despite Dark Knights being the prominent one you bring 2 of, if any, they're the least represented. Somehow. So it's complicated. It's especially complicated with melee DPS, because usually you bring 2 melee DPS because of this. just gestures at the logs. Melee DPS do more, like, they offer more in damage, so if you don't have a party bonus or something as a reason to bring a DPS, you will probably bring a melee, unless there's like a boss mechanic or something. Let me see. Naraxis says, so basically for the top 1% of raiders who are pushing for rank 1, Dark Knights and Gunbreakers are the best, but for the rest of the masses, Warrior and Paladin are the most popular. Exactly, you got it. However, if you decide that you actually want to play Dark Knight or Gunbreaker, they're perfectly viable. Like, you can play any tank you want. You can play any of the jobs on this list. In fact, if you're in Party Finder, like if you're sitting in Party Finder looking for a group, the less common jobs are actually probably having an easier time finding a group. Because in uncoordinated groups, it's a lot more common to have double mage, especially on, or double ranged physical even, on progression groups. And even on farm groups, because this damage difference isn't big enough that it's like crucially important, and the groups are more interested in having 8 different jobs than they're interested in having specifically 2 melee DPS, for example. So they'll take, like, if they already have a Black Mage, they'll take a Summoner, it's fine. But they need 1 melee DPS, and they need one ranged physical. But if you're a Summoner main, there's a way bigger chance if you're going as a Party Finder that all of the groups already have a Summoner. Whereas if you're a Black Mage main, there's a much lower chance that they have a Black Mage. Although, when you join as a Black Mage, I don't think there is a stigma like that, but it wouldn't surprise me if some groups would be like, a little sus, a little suspicious on whether you actually know what you're doing, because Black Mage is really hard to play, and Savage is really hard as well, right? Let me just see if I can catch up on some of the things people talked about while I gave them a little tirade here. So just a little thing, the reason why we usually check on our DPS is because when you're comparing jobs, some of them provide damage to the rest of the group, so it's unfair if you compare 2 jobs against each other, and if you're not using RDPS, there's a significant chance that the other job is like getting credit for buffs from the weaker job. But if you do RDPS, then each job gets what they provided, which is more fair. But if you're comparing jobs that all don't have raid buffs, it's typically fair to like check on different metrics, because if you check on ones where the job gets credit for all the damage they did, then certain the less supportive jobs may look better. If I remember correctly, C DPS is more likely to be what you see on a DPS meter in game. Basically, the C DPS is, to put it bluntly, it's basically literally the damage you did. So that means that jobs that can do more damage will look better, especially if they got raid buffs. And that also means that jobs that can do more with raid buffs, that's why it's called C DPS. That's a really good one. But that means that the jobs that don't do as much damage themselves will look worse. I think. Actually, I'm not sure on that one. That is a little strange with this one. But you can see the ones where there are actually, I believe, N and A DPS are different combinations of awarding the DPS that someone did to them, rather than like awarding it to the person that gave the buff. You can see that jobs like Dancer and Bard look really bad. I typically just look at RDPS because that is the fairest way to compare all jobs, but if you're going down into like the minute details, it can be difficult to compare 2 jobs on just that, especially if it's like tanks, because tanks provide no raid buffs. So it's better to like look at different things, like Gunbreaker typically fares really well on raid buffs, and Dark Knight does too. But it can be difficult to quantify. There's also an interesting thing, is that the less passes a job has, the less consistent the result is. Matthew says NDPS and CDPS are weird because they don't sum up to the whole group DPS. Good point. There's something that is subtracted, yes. But yeah, the less passes, the weirder the result can be. On the other hand, if a job is really, really, really popular, then the job can sometimes look worse than it is. Because, for example, Summoner is actually a good example of this. Summoner is pretty widely accepted as the easiest job in the game. So it's very common for like worse players to play Summoner in Savage Raid, which means that there's a good chance, if they're logging, that their logs will drag the average down, which makes the job look worse. At the same time, there may be bad Black Mages that are logging that are dragging that average down. So if a job is relatively easy to play, but is not super popular, then its results are going to look really good, because there's only players playing well playing it. Just as an example, right? Naraxis says, sorry for making you explain so long. That's fine. As I said, we did manage to do the roulettes that I planned to do. We actually finished really early, so I was going to just talk about stuff anyway. And we haven't had a bring up the FF logs stream in a while, so don't worry about it. Lemon says, why is 2 dancers per bard such a funny phrase to me? I think it's because you're thinking about Baldur's Gate. You know how bards can be in D&D. Angel said, let's see, P1S, you could adjust so that Black Mage and Melee could swap slots for certain mechanics. That's true, and a good example is actually that part of the reason why sometimes you'll bring an extra ranged is that, and not ever an extra melee, is both because you can't have 3, you'll lose a party buff, but if you have 3 ranged, or 1 ranged physical and 2 mages, or 2 ranged physical and 1 mage, one of them can just take the melee spots. And the clever thing is that melee DPS typically don't have to move nearly as much as ranged. So often, I've heard, Black Mage mains will want that melee slot if they can have it. Like, that is actually really nice. Even if they have to stand in melee range, they have to move less. And you can probably imagine why that would be nice. But yeah, it's a really long-winded way to say, yes, there's a reason why the group compositions are the way that they are. As we've talked about, Dark Knight and Gunbreaker fare, and Astrologian and Scholar fare better in coordinated groups, whereas Warrior and Paladin and White Mage and Sage fare better in uncoordinated groups. And that's simply because Gunbreaker and Dark Knight can make better use of raid buffs, and Astrologian and Scholar provide raid buffs, and Paladin and Warrior don't mind having raid buffs, but they don't make as much of them. And White Mage and Sage don't provide any. So like they're actually riding on their own damage. It's pretty funny because you'd think White Mage, you know, the quintessential classic healer of Final Fantasy, would be like the job that is like spamming out heals and like that's the first priority all the time. But because White Mage is a selfish DPS and such a huge amount of its damage comes from glare, it's actually way more inconvenienced and loses way more value if it has to cast like Cure 2 or Medica 2 than if an Astrologian does it, because the Astrologian gets way more damage from the rest of the group. I think maybe the Bard thing is like a meme, like a bit like how there's the whole stuff with raunchy data center worlds in Final Fantasy XIV. It turns out that it's usually people visiting that are the weirdos, and not the people that actually live there. People say that all the bards are weirdos, but it's actually more the people dreaming about playing a bard and not actually playing it. Lemon says it's because of their high charisma. For some reason, people take that to mean they're easily excited. Don't paladins have really high charisma as well? But yeah, as I was saying, the important thing if you're trying to get into Savage Raiding is not to go, okay, what's the meta job now? Because if you're not playing a job that you like to play, just so that you can get easier groups or something, then you're not going to be enjoying Savage Raiding. And if you're not enjoying Savage Raiding, then you're going to quit. So if you're getting into Savage Raiding, make sure you're maining a job that you actually like. I think that's the most important part, Naraxis. Like when, like often also considering what you think would be good for you when you're Savage Raiding also matters. When I was Savage Raiding a little bit in the previous raid tier on stream, I specifically chose Summoner, not because necessarily it was my first pick, but because it's a job that I was at the time playing so regularly and so frequently that I could easily pick it up as my main. I could just make it my main, and I could pretty much do the rotation with blindfolds on, which means that I could be fighting a Savage Raid boss, and as long as a difficult mechanic wasn't coming up in like the next 5 seconds, I could read a live chat comment. I could actually just read a comment while Savage Raiding. Couldn't do that if I was playing like a samurai. Good night, Phoenix. Thank you for checking in. So that was the reason why I chose Summoner. When we've done Extreme Goalbus, I've been playing Warrior. Just because I tend to fluctuate towards tanking main. And it's also easier because I'm doing it with friends, so that there's multiple people that can fill the air if I have to concentrate. I think you were really fast today. Yeah, that is my recommendation at least. Like, you don't need to worry about this. This is completely irrelevant. You just choose the job you like the best and do your best with that job. That's what matters. And of course, if you feel like it's a little hard to play perfectly with the job you like the most, then you might choose like your second best for Savage Raiding if you find that significantly easier. Like, for example, I think it's so fun to play Black Mage, but I don't think I would choose Black Mage as like my first pick for Savage Raiding. I don't think I would do that. I might choose Summoner, because then when I've gotten better acquainted with the fights, I might be able to do it as Black Mage, and then I can use the same gear. But there's a better chance that I would just play Warrior, for example. Matthew says, we had good re-clears today, but you were still at the Alliance Raid Roulette by the time I was done. Fair enough. I think we started Alliance Raid Roulettes earlier today than usual. Big crit numbers. Yeah. So does that mean you're going with Slow Mage then? That is usually the way to make the crits really big. Get just enough speed that it all like hangs together and you can play the job just fine, and then just crit. And yes, I played fast Black Mage tonight, both because I think that's funnier, and also because it's easier, and I was streaming. I actually have looked through. I can actually get the 242 GCD by just switching gear pieces around in my inventory. Neuraxis says, currently playing Monk and Black Mage, both hit like mortars. Your Monk guide was what made me play Monk. Well, I'm glad to hear that that inspired you. I'm glad to hear that you're having fun with it. The thing is that usually when I've been picking up a job to make a guide, because like I will of course play the job extra when making the guide, make sure that I got everything right, test things to see that it works correctly, test that the rotation that I suggest work, and see if there's any tricks that you can do that might not be in guides normally because it's like not a level 90 thing and stuff like that. But both Monk and Black Mage were also jobs where when I had finished making the guides, I was like, I actually feel like playing the job a little bit extra now. Like I actually want to play it more. Thing is that that Black Mage kind of overshadowed Monk a little bit, I guess. But yeah, Angel said I usually settle on approximately 1300 spell speed. That is the recommended slow mage speed, which is like, is that like 234? I think it's 234 GCD, something like that. I just want you to remember that. So I very early in the stream I said that Black Mage, their slow mage build prefers a GCD of 2.42, which is faster than most jobs use nowadays. Like most jobs that don't specifically care about speed will have 0 or nearly none. I think even like the faster Gunbreaker builds are like 244. Meanwhile, slow Black Mage is 242. And that's like drastically slow, like incredibly slow, where Black Mages would prefer to be faster than that. I have heard some Black Mages insist that it's even better to go like completely minimal speed. And I guess those Black Mages are really excited because they can actually choose no speed on their relic weapons. Meanwhile, Monk at 194. Yeah, exactly. 194. Well, the thing is, let me just check something on that. Speed. 194 without Greased Lightning is actually comparable to 243. So Monk, if they didn't have Greased Lightning, they would actually be on 243, which is slower than Black Mage. Angel says, I think slow Sam is 215. Yes, that sounds right. If I remember correctly, that's also really low. I think that's like, yeah, that's 500 skill speed. It's really, really like, I think it's like 248 without speed. Like without Shifu. 248 or so. So, slowest Black Mage recommendations is faster than most jobs. Noir says, sorry, first time here, but what is that dance? This is the Moogle dance. You get it from, I believe, getting a really high reputation with Moogles in Heavensward. They are a crafter and gatherer specific tribe. So you have to level like gatherers or crafters to be able to do them. Yeah. Don't worry about it, Noir. It's not very obvious, especially if if maybe you're a newer player, then you wouldn't have a chance to know. Hey Coco! Severe lag of buns on screen. Well, we actually had Orion on earlier on their bunny alt, so we tried. Angel says, I think in last year when I raided, I opted for middle ground due to downtime. For Black Mage or Samurai? I think a really important thing is that jobs... Oh, look! Gilano's our bunny! With the bunny ears emote. An important detail is... Okay, go. Enjoy your night. The important detail is jobs that don't mind speed as compared to jobs that hate speed. Jobs that don't mind it are a lot easier to, like, gear. Just to put it into perspective. Whoops. If we look at tanks, Dark Knight doesn't mind having some skill speed. It doesn't hurt. It's fine if they have some. It doesn't help that much. They don't need it. Gunbreakers, they get more resource generation. That makes their rotation more consistent if they have some speed. Warriors don't really care, so it's more important that you have a GCD that doesn't mess with the timing of upheaval or inner release. But that still means that you care a little bit. Paladins do not care about skill speed, like, at all. They would rather not have it. Like, I am actually relatively confident that some Paladin players would rather just have 0 rather than skill speed, because of how annoying it can be for your rotation. And that means that if you have limited gear options, like if you're playing more casually, where your gear options might be stuff with skill speed on it, and that's the only options you have, it might be convenient to choose to play more of a job that isn't that hindered or annoyed by speed. Just a random thought. Gambler says, I did Savage raiding with my first job, which is Dragoon, but recently I gave up on raiding because P10S just feels impossible for me to do. Does it feel impossible because the fight is, like, because of something that feels out of your control, or does it feel too hard to do it as Dragoon? I'm wondering which one it is. It could also be something completely, like, thirdly. I feel like I can't do enough DPS. If you haven't reached the Enrage on the boss, you've seen Enrage a few times. Okay. Have you managed to see Enrage where you didn't have people die throughout the fight? I know that is a pretty high requirement, but just have you seen Enrage where everyone was alive from start to finish? I've never seen that. In that, have you personally survived from start to finish, like in a run? Normally it's a healer limit break 3. Ooh. I don't know how strict the DPS requirement is on that fight, but the thing is, if people are dying to boss mechanics, then it's not a DPS issue yet. Then it is a mechanical issue, and people need to not die. If you need to use healer limit break 3, that is basically that, but like tuned to 11, like just cranked to the max, because you had so many deaths that you needed to use a limit break on it, which also loses your damage, because that could have been a DPS limit break. As I said, I don't know how strict the DPS requirement is, like how tight the enrage is on that fight. Matthew says it's not a strict DPS check, but wherever the check is, there will be people who can only just make it. True. But the point is, if you're having deaths, like if you're having deaths throughout the fight, then that is the first problem to solve. Because, like, if you're having people dead, they're doing 0 damage for a while. So I don't know, like, I don't know, Gambler, if you're using, like, do you log your runs? Like, do you check analysis after a session, or do you not do that? Completely understandable if you don't, because, well, maybe you're on console, but even if you're on PC, it does usually require that you use some sort of third tool. I don't use ACT. Oh, I don't think you actually need ACT to make logs. You just need FF logs that can analyze your battle log after the raid, and then you can post that and analyze. You can check it. So I don't think you need ACT for that. But maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Do you need ACT to produce that? Oh, you need ACT to write the log. Fair enough. Couldn't remember. Yeah, in that case you need ACT. But the best you can do, so the thing is, it's not, in my opinion, the most important thing is not your DPS on the DPS meter in game. The important thing is, so you do use ACT. When you're done with the session, you upload your logs to FF logs. You don't have to publish them, that's optional, I think. But there are tools like XIV analysis, XIV analysis, where you can actually paste a log into, and it will tell you at like a basic level common mistakes that you're making. Like if you're a mage, if you're interrupting your cast to run, if you're triple weaving, causing you to clip your GCD, if you're forgetting a cooldown, things like that, it will highlight for you so you can see the mistake. You will also see a hilarious detail, like I think if you have deaths, it usually highlights that and calls that like a disastrous mistake and says you shouldn't die. Preferably you shouldn't die when raiding. Really? So you're saying me being dead impacted my damage? That is fascinating. Angel says, sadly, Civ analysis isn't useful for telling you're using something like the bell or wings on White Mage too little. That's true. I'm guessing it's just saying whether you used them or not. This is a common problem with simulation tools. That's not a simulation tool, that is of course an analysis tool, but simulation tools as well for optimizing is that the best time to use a defensive cooldown is complicated. Just for the sake of comparison, World of Warcraft, there's this tool they use that is called Simulation Craft. They literally just put all the gear their character has in. Sometimes they might even mention like specific nuances to the rotation that they use, so that the tool knows what to do. And then it will just demonstrate the rotation, and it will tell you exactly what your best stat is. And you can compare full gear sets, which can be important because there can be like procs and stuff on your gear. It can be difficult to compare, but they can simulate an entire rotation 1,000,000 times so that you know for certain which gear piece is best. But it cannot tell you what's best defensively, because what's best defensively depends on exactly the damage profile of the enemy. How often does it auto-attack? How hard does it auto-attack? Does it have a tank buster? How often does it tank buster? Does it have a debuff it applies? If it does a tank buster, do you have a tank you co-tank with? Do you need to tank switch? Is there a raid wide? Do you care about that? Like, there's too many moving parts to figure out what's best defensively, and this also applies to healers. There was an add-on or something, at least for a while, that healers could use in World of Warcraft, where it would actually, like, in real time, while you're healing, it would actually estimate the value of your stats, so it could tell you what was best. But it needed to see you healing to be able to tell you, and the values would often change from fight to fight, because which cooldowns you use when, what you do when, and who needs how much healing. varies from run to run, right? So it's perfectly natural that defensive stuff is really hard to give advice on. That's also why when I've been reviewing people's runs on tea time, I can say what I think would be better, and I can say if there's something you're explicitly not using that you could have been using. But if no one dies and you didn't really lose any DPS, then any advice that I give is just, if your tank played a little worse, then you could have used this extra healing cooldown, it would have been safer. But it didn't go pan out like that, so no one cares. And it also works the other way with the tank. So it's complicated. Angel says, to give you an example, I need to save wings for the first silk spit, Bell for raid wide after Demonic Bonds 1, and then I need both for Harrowing Hell. Yeah, you don't say. Harrowing Hell without Bell on normal is actually a little painful. Today I actually wiped when I did the P10 normal. Because... And I was tanking. But I guess the healers weren't expecting it, so after the Harrowing Hell we had 2 tanks and 1 DPS alive. And that DPS did not have a res. Right. We managed to do the roulettes that we planned to do. We also managed to have a little bit of a discussion about logs. Oops. A little bit of a discussion about how Savage rating works. Gambler, I would say try and get ACT. Try and get FF logs if you want to improve. Just remember, third-party tools and all that, at your own risk. Don't talk about it in-game. But, yeah. Then you might be able to analyze what's going on and like what's going wrong, and if it's even you that is doing anything wrong. Who knows? Maybe you're the best player in the groups and everyone else is holding you back. But with that said, if you enjoyed talking with the people you saw on the stream tonight, there is a Discord community server where you can find many of these people as well. You will also find the weekly schedule on the channel where you can see what I'm doing every week. And there is also an announcement channel where you can see what I'm posting next. A new video, new stream, whatever's coming up. That is always where it's posted first. And you can even sign up to get tagged if you want it. Yeah. Aside from that, remember there's coming Black Mage guides the next few days. And if you enjoyed the stream, I would really appreciate it if you left a like on the stream. That helps me a lot. And that means that all I have left to say is good night, or good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. And I hope to see you all very, very soon. Bye-bye!